Hello everybody, welcome back to my second YouTube video here. Today we are diving into the possibility of using AI Builder in Copilot Studio. Last time we covered using AI Builder in Power Automate. You can also use it in Power Apps. But in Copilot Studio, it really gives you the power of refining those prompts and provide the user with better outputs. So let's dive into that. So we are back now in Copilot Studio, and let's first create a Copilot so we can use that for our demo here. I'm just going to name it AI Builder Demo, and the description and instructions we can provide at a later point. I'm going to hit create here, and then our agent is being set up. Once your Copilot setup has finished, it's going to look like this. So you will be present with your Copilot view. There are two different ways how we can integrate AI Builder within a Copilot. The first thing is we're going to build it into a Power Automate flow. That's something which I showed you in the previous video, which I'm going to link somewhere up here. And the second option is basically integrated into a topic within Copilot Studio. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to first collect some information from the user. We're going to provide it to our AI Builder prompt, and we're going to get an output. There are two ways. You can either create a new prompt, which we are going in this session, or you can also use an existing prompt, which you maybe have already configured for your Power App, your Power Automate flow, or for a different agent within your environment. Therefore, we are going here on top on topics, and you can create it either in one of the default custom topics, also in the system topics, or you can generate one from blank. And we're going to do an example where we are providing a meeting agenda generator. So we get a user input, what the meeting is about, the duration, etc. And with an AI prompt, we're going to present him with a meeting agenda. So we're going to name this to meeting agenda generator. And then we can hit save. And now the first step, what we need to do is basically we need to gather the information from our user. So therefore we are adding here an action, and there are two things what we can do. We can either ask him with a question, or we can ask him also with an adaptive card. So let's do that. And an adaptive card is going to give us the possibility to structure a form where we can ask the user for certain inputs, and we can do also a validation on those certain input fields. So think about that number fields can always be of the type integer or float, for example, or we can also work with drop downs here or date fields. Now you need to design your adaptive card. That you can do with the adaptive card designer. So let's open that in the new tab, and you're coming out with adaptivecard.io/designer, and you will be presented with this view here. You're going to see an example here, but we are working today with a new card. So you can either create a blank card, one from JSON schema, or you can also use any of the templates available here. We're going to use a blank card, so you get the idea of how you can build an adaptive card. One warning which is important here, the selected target version 1.6 is greater than the version supported by Bot Framework Web Chat. That's actually the one which is behind Copilot, so it's important that you make sure that you have maximum version of 1.3, which you can always see here. So if you're using any version which is higher than that, it's not going to be working in your topics. How can you achieve that? You can just switch, for example, to Microsoft Teams, and you can switch back to the Bot Framework Web Chat, and it will automatically come down to version 1.3. Now you can start designing your adaptive card. It's actually pretty simple. You can just drag your elements into the canvas here. So let's start with the text block. We can say, for example, please enter your meeting details here. And we're going to need some input fields. We're going to work with 4 different input fields, which is the meeting purpose, participants, duration in minutes, and desired outcomes. So the input fields you can see down here. So take 3 text input fields, and one number input field. For the time in theory, you can also work with a time input field. And once you have done that, you can start designing your placeholders here. You can see we have no label yet. We have no placeholder text defined yet. So let's do that. So you can start, for example, here. We're gonna name this meeting purpose. And let's just copy that into the placeholder text. You could also specify here, for example, please enter your meeting purpose here. But we just keep it simple for now. Say this is the participants. Then we need the duration and time. Duration and time. Copy that also to the placeholder. And lastly, the desired outcomes. And we're going to copy that as here as well. So now you can see we already have 4 different input fields which you can use. But to make it available to basically store these inputs into a variable, for example, in the topic, we need to do 2 more things, which is assigning an ID to all our input fields and to add a certain submit action so it will be actually passed back to the topic. So that's what we're going to do now. Therefore, we're going step by step. So we have meeting purpose here. So we can give this an ID of purpose. You can either make it in text or with a number. That's up to you. Participants, we're gonna give our number field the duration. And our last field, we just give it outcome. So now all of them have an idea. You see those are also popping up here. And now it's time to also add our submit action. That we can do by adding a so-called action set. So let's pull it in here. And you will be presented with the button here, add an action. So you can do that, and we have 4 different available: open URL, submit, show card, and the toggle visibility. We're going to use the submit action because that will pass our input further to the topic. So let's do that. And we have also the possibility to rename this action here. Currently title is action submit. We will just name it into submit and also give it an ID. Now we can just copy and paste our JSON schema, which we can see below here, and pass it into Copilot Studio. So just hit Ctrl N, Ctrl C, so you can make sure that everything is copied. And we are going back here, and if you click on the adaptive card, you can see here on the right, it pops up with the JSON schema. You can also open the adaptive card signer from the top here, or just go directly to the URL. So if you enter this and just click away from it, you're going to see that now your adaptive card is popping up with all your defined input fields and your submit fields. So let's save that topic first. And now we can see we have our adaptive card here, and down here we can see our outputs. And those outputs we can now use further within the topic. And in our example, we're going to pass them to an AI prompt. So we are adding here a second node, and we have the possibility to call an action here and can create a prompt here. So a prompt will automatically create a prompt in the AI Hub within the Power Platform. You can either create them from the Power Platform or directly here within Copilot Studio. So now you can see we are actually in the designer for the AI prompts. We can also see a prompt by AI builder, and we can give it a name, for example, marketing agenda generator. We can specify our inputs here. So we have specified the inputs and the outputs on the adaptive card side. Now we also need to specify those inputs on the AI builder side. So here you can only work with text. So let's say if we want the meeting purpose, and we need the participants, the duration in minutes, and our desired outcomes. And then we're going to provide some example data. For example, meeting purpose will be like a weekly team sync. Participants can be developers, project manager, product owner. The duration in minutes can be 30, and the desired outcome can be, for example, an update about the current status of the project and the backlog. So now it's about to define our prompt in here and to map those inputs to the prompt. So I prepared one already here. For example, create a detailed agenda for a duration meeting titled meeting purpose. The participants are participants. The key outcomes are desired outcomes. Provide time allocations for each section and ensure the agenda supports efficient discussion and decision making. And also we have an example on how an output should look like. So now it's important then that we are mapping our input fields into the prompt. So we can remove the placeholders which I had. We can click on top here on add, and we can see here our defined inputs. So let's add here, for example, the duration in minutes. Our meeting purpose will be replaced against the meeting purpose. It always opens on new, so you need to click on in your prompt. Then you're coming down to the right input variables. We're going to replace the participants as well through our participants input and our desired outcome as well. So let's add this here, desired outcomes, and now we have prepared our AI builder prompt in here. So I can also click here on test prompt. So for the test, it's using the sample data, which is defined on the right here. And let's see what we get out of here. Meeting agenda, weekly team sync, duration 30 minutes, participants, exactly, and then you can come up here with a fully structured agenda, what you need. So let's save this prompt and we can use it in our Copilot topic. Once I finish saving, it's going to be added right into your topic here. So we can map now the output fields from the adaptive card to the input fields of the AI builder prompt. We're going to map participants to participants, purpose to the meeting purpose, desired outcomes to outcome, and the duration in minutes to duration. So for this field, you can see now that it contains a red frame, which is because it's a wrong mapping. So we have here the duration is currently a number field, and the duration in minute is a string field. Because on the AI builder prompt, we can currently specify only text inputs as input. So therefore, we're gonna do variable conversion. So we can go into variable management and set a variable value. So we can create a new variable here. We can say, for example, let's give it a name, duration text. And we can assign this value, the value of the duration from here in a text format. So therefore, in the to value, we're gonna use a PowerFX formula. So you're gonna enter a formula here. And it's a very simple one. You just type text, and then in brackets you say topic dot duration. That's how you reference to your duration number from here. And we're going to close the brackets, and you can already see now the type of the output is string. So let's hit enter, and now we have a new duration text which we can use, which contains duration from here just in a text format. So therefore, let's map it to our new duration text. And we can see now that the red frame is gone and it can be saved. Now we need to map our output from the AI prompt to a message. So you can see already here the type is of type record. So we're gonna store this into a new variable. So let's rename this one by just clicking this variable. I'm gonna give it the name prompt output. And it will not send automatically a message with the output. So we need to make sure we are gonna add a further node, send a message. And from this record, we can now use the text. So as you know, from prompts, they have different properties. So you can see here on the prompt output, if you go on the variables, you have prompt output. That's the full JSON basically. You can have a finish reason. You can have the text. So what we want is actually only the text, because that is what is important for the user to see, not the finish reasons, etc. So let's map it to the prompt output text, and this will be provided in our message. So now it's important that we can actually trigger our topic. So currently it's on phrases. You can also make it based on dynamic chaining. However, for the demonstration, it's easiest to make it with phrases. So therefore, let's click here on edit. We can add a phrase. Let's keep it simple. Meeting, for example. Best practices is to add a number here of a minimum of 10 different phrases, how you want to trigger your topic. So let's hit save, and now we can test it. So our expectation is we are gonna add some data into the adaptive card. The prompt will basically prepare a nice meeting agenda and will respond to that within our Copilot. So let's hit refresh. So it has the changes from the topic. And let's say I want to plan a meeting. Submit that. And we can see right away it's popping up with the adaptive card. So we can say we have a weekly team sync. It's from the developers, customer, and the PM, for example. Duration will be 45 minutes. And the desired outcomes is weekly backlog for the developers to work on. Then we can hit submit. We can see it triggered already the prompt here, and it's coming up with a meeting agenda. The duration of 45 minutes, the participants, and with a generic agenda like prioritizing tasks for the upcoming week, address any blockers faced by the team, a wrap up, the meeting purpose, and the desired outcomes. So this is how you can use AI builder prompts within Copilot Studio. It gives you basically the possibility to efficiently use the user inputs gathered from a form, put it into generative AI, and with your custom prompt, you can influence how the output for the user will look like. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up and see you next time.